our social media contest. Again, a takeaway with 15 words or more, including the hashtag ReadySetMimioStem, and then tagging us on either Instagram or Twitter by just searching Boxlight, and you can find that. And then Kim saying, really like the 3D printed waves. Very cool. Don't forget, we're picking 3 winners next week. 3 winners get to choose from these 6 prizes. And then there will be 1 grand prize winner that will get to choose between either the Robo E3 printer or the Lyric portable sound system to bring the audio solutions into your classroom. All right, we have 2 more sessions coming up. We have Oslin talking about implementing drones into your class. So if you want to check out drones, that will be 1 session. And then Karleen will also be talking to us about literacy and STEM, synergizing through novel engineering.
Hello. How is everyone?
Hello, Karleen. Good to see you.
Hello. Hi, Nick.
I'm happy I get to be in your session today.
Yes, thank you. This is an interesting time of events here. I just presented at a conference in person, and I'm holed up in a room on the side doing this one now.
The best space for it.
Yes. We might have everybody in. All right, perfect. All right, so y'all, we're on a bit of a time crunch here, and I really want you to do something cool with me. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I'll share this deck with you later. There's some pretty cool resources in here that you might want to check out. But part of this, I really want you to do some steps. So first off, we're today talking about combining literacy and STEM into something called novel engineering. And for those of you who don't know what that is, we will definitely dive into that. But just to introduce myself, my name is Karleen Vaughn. I am a former teacher, coach, and trainer, and all that. And I'm actually the program manager for our innovation studio at Boxlight headquarters in Duluth, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. Have a pretty heavy STEM background prior to coming to Boxlight, so I love that I still get to do this kind of stuff with people just like you. So, novel engineering. And if you have any questions, please just pop them in the chat, and Nick will let me know as those come up. But novel engineering is basically the process of using existing classroom literature for the basis of your engineering design challenges. And so with that, just like you would with any other design challenge, we're going to, go through a story. We're going to identify some problems, and then we're going to figure out what we can do to fix it. Some of it is situational, but other things have a physical problem and things that we can fix. And the best part about that is we're going to go through the engineering design process. And so with that, of course, we've got defining the problem, because you can't fix it unless you can identify what that problem is. And depending on the story, that problem could be different. And especially just different from multiple readers looking at a problem. They might say it a different way. I know we did one exercise with this in the past, and cannot muncha. If you've heard that book before, the animals keep stealing the farmer's crops, and so the farmer keeps coming up with different barriers to prevent the animals from being able to get his crops. Well, some other people, their problem was, okay, he keeps putting up the barriers. How do we get in? And so they were coming up with some very unique solutions and kind of picking a side for some of that stuff. But you're going to define the problem. You're going to brainstorm solutions. And you're going to design a prototype. You're going to test it out and then iterate that design. And that is a process that is useful in almost any walk of life, really. No matter what you're doing, there is a bit of a design process with it. When you're learning something new, you're going to do one thing. You're going to try it out. You're going to learn more. You're going to change the way you're doing things, and then try again. And then you keep adding to that process until you become a professional with that. And so one of the examples I like to use actually is the iPhone, because it's something that kids are very familiar with. And they didn't just come up with the first iPhone like that, and then all of a sudden it's the number one phone and the best smartphone ever, right? We have Android and iPhone camps, and that's not really what this is about. It's more about the fact that even when they finally did come up with what they thought was an amazing smartphone, they've now continued to iterate on that and are now iPhone 14, 15, something like that. Who knows? So it's a continuous process to just do what you can to make it better, more features, or just more towards what makes it, easier or intuitive, or, what the customers are asking for. So with that in mind, we're actually going to kind of hop into this example. So first off, we're going to listen to a 2-minute clip of a book, and then we're going to dive into an experiment here. And I'm going to stop sharing really quick so I can make sure to include my audio this time. There we go. All right, this is coming from Storyline Online, which is a resource that we'll see when you get access to the slide deck later. It's a great place to find read-alouds. All right, so it's 2 minutes. And you'll see there's some pretty cool or famous.
Welcome to Storyline Online, brought to you by the SAG-AFTRA Foundation.
Can we hear okay?
I'm Sheeta Jones, and today I'm going to read Please, Please the Bees, written and illustrated by Gerald Kelly. Benedict was a creature of habit. He liked to do the same thing every day. Every morning he woke up at the same time. Every morning he stretched, he scratched, he yawned a great yawn. Every morning the bees delivered 3 jars full of honey. Benedict ate the same breakfast he'd eaten since he was just a fuzzy cub: toast with honey and tea with extra honey. Next came his daily routine: practicing, perfecting his honey cake recipe, knitting, and running errands. At night, he'd read, then have one last cup of honey tea before bed. Life was sweet. Until one morning, things weren't the same. In fact, something terribly unsame had happened. There was no more honey. The bees had gone on strike. Benedict's breakfast wasn't the same without honey. Without his honey tea, he couldn't knit. The practice was dreadful. He didn't even bother with the errands. Benedict became deeply discouraged. Just then, he heard someone say, "Hey, you, in the fur coat." It was a very small bee with a remarkably loud voice. "We need to talk," said the bee. "Talk?" grumbled Benedict. "I let you all live in my yard. All I ask for is a few jars of honey. You should be grateful, not go on strike." "A few jars," said the bee. "Buddy, we deliver 3 jars of honey to you every day, every month, every year. Do the math, Einstein." "The hive is a wreck," the bee continued. "It's all we can do to keep the walls from falling in. The roof leaks. Wind blows through the cracks. The last 3 queens up and quit on us because of the lousy work conditions." The bee showed Benedict the garden. "Look," the bee said, "weeds everywhere. We have to fly miles away just to find enough flowers to make our honey. So we voted to strike." "You're taking this for granted," the bee declared. "You want honey? Things need to change. It's up to you, Bear." And with that, the very small bee flew off.
All right, I'm going to stop the story there, and that's my favorite part, is stopping it when you're kind of at the peak of whatever the issue is, or we've identified or come across several problems now. Before you get to any resolution in the story, this is a perfect time to have your students try to tackle or identify and then tackle some of these problems. So, come back to our presentation for a second. What I want you to think about... I'm sorry? Okay. What I want you to think about is, what exactly is the problem? And then, who is the problem? Who's that surrounding it, right? And again, remember that depending on the story that you're reading, it could be, you could pick a side with this, right? And then you need to think about what you can do to solve it. So I'm going to head over to PowerPoint now, and I'm going to drop the link in the chat for you. And this is one of my favorite ways to do this in a digital format here. So go ahead and grab that link that is in the chat. And you're going to end up in this PowerPoint slide deck, okay? Looks like I see somebody coming in here. Yep, perfect. So the rules of this are that we want you to click the link, grab a slide, and add your name. Then you're going to be use the drawing tools and design away. So right here, you have draw, and then you should have some drawing tools that you can go ahead and kind of just loosely, and again, we're doing this really quick. Shauna, I see you've gotten started. Amazing. Thank you. Go ahead and again, keep in mind, what is the problem? Who is the person that we're addressing with this? And I'll give you just a couple minutes. We'll kind of look through some of the things you all are doing. And then I'll talk about some of the other responses I've seen with this, because I've done this story with a couple different classes. And we've got some pretty great examples from students. And there are 50 slides in here. It looks like we have just a couple people who have joined us in here. Amy, thank you for joining. I see a couple of really nice B's coming here. There's another tool that you can use when you're doing it digitally. AutoDraw is kind of a nice option. If you go to AutoDraw, it does one of those things where, I draw a house and it looks terrible, but then AutoDraw is like, hey, what about this one? And then you can just copy and paste that in. Okay. And so while you're working, if I could just have a couple people unmute and just kind of tell me, what do we think the problem is here in this story?
Rationing.
Unfair rationing? Right. Okay.
The bear's eating too much honey.
Exactly. He probably doesn't need a full 3 jars every day. All right. Very good. What about the bear? What about his behavior? Is he a real team player? Maybe not necessarily. Probably could do a little bit to help the bees out if he really wants that honey every day. And we'll see. It looks like Shauna. What are we working on? A new beehive?
Right now I'm drawing the broken one.
Okay. Awesome. So what I love about this while you're talking, I just want to mention that when you do it in a digital format, this is obviously very low supply usage, right? Because a lot of times, especially your younger students, when you give them supplies, a lot of times they'll just use all the things and then not really have anything too structured. So this could be a really good starting place. It could just be working strictly digitally. But it's a great way to just share a deck, let everybody grab a slide and kind of start working with this. Okay. So Amy and Shauna, thank you both for jumping in here. Feel free to continue working. We only have a little bit of time left, so I am going to hop back over to my main slide deck for a second. And let's talk just a little bit more about this. So with this, I know we did a picture book, and I know you're probably thinking, like, really, that's the story she chose? But yes, that's exactly what I chose, because it is very easy to understand, right? When you're first introducing this topic, it's really nice to start with something very simple. A picture book, even with high schoolers. They don't spend a lot of time with Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, but they all kind of remember that story. Same thing with the 3 Little Pigs. You could just say, hey, remember the 3 Little Pigs? Design a solution for that. And they can just kind of get started with that. And then, of course, then you can follow up with the second half of the story or the book to figure out how, the actual characters from this book solved that problem or what the resolution was. Here are some examples really quick. I'm going to take a look at some things that have been done in other schools. This is a media specialist working with a STEM teacher, and they did the 3 Little Pigs as well. And with this one, they even made a wolf and put a hairdryer inside of it so they could blow down the houses, which I thought was great. And lets them test out those designs, not just create them, but test them out. Here's an example of Peter's chair. Design a chair that will support Peter. And of course, in this instance, this was Peter. So they had to create that. And it's great to not just have them create it, but have a way that they can possibly test whatever that solution is. 3 Little Pigs, again, designing that house to withstand the wolf. One thing, too, is that creating it by itself can be very simple or elementary, depending on the materials and the books and things like that. Okay. But some of the things you can do to level that up could be assigning or having a prescribed list of materials and giving everybody a budget. And so within their group, they can say, okay, you've got $50. What can you purchase, or how many supplies can you purchase to build what it is you're trying to create? Okay. So there's a way that you can level up any of these books, right? But again, I like starting with the picture book because it kind of teaches them the process without having to dive too far into the literature. But the thing is, I'm a math and science person. I am not inherently someone who's like reading, and I had to be forced to read. I can read. I'm a good reader. I'm a good writer, right? But not everybody kind of leans that way initially. And so novel engineering is a really fun way to kind of bring in those math science people into, enjoying the literature a little bit more because they're getting to engage with it in a different way that's much more hands-on than traditional. Here's another example here, designing a parachute to help Jack escape the beanstalk or the giant from the beanstalk. Here's some other examples using Hatchet, which is a higher level upper elementary or middle school book, where they designed something to help Brian catch fish. This actually came from a school district here in the Atlanta area. And then another one with 6th grade, we've got Frankenstein, designing and coding body parts for the monster. So this could be using, looks like it's actually using Makey Makey, and then some maker supplies and their laptops, and they're creating, something to help the monster out in Frankenstein. Here's coding with Ozobots, same sort of thing, helping it find a path as part of that Mouse Mess book. We have Outcast at Poker Flat and Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. Again, some really cool ways to do novel engineering, but even with some high school text that you might use in the classroom. And then this is a preview of one that I did as a professional development option or opportunity with teachers on the Three Little Pigs. And so you can see with this one, I know it's really tiny here. Someone built a bunker essentially with like an access hatch at the top of this hill. Someone built a house into the side of a hill, so you still have the front, but then the back is protected. And then they have this up here for surveillance. Down here, they built it underground, and it's hidden underwater even, so nobody's going to see that. And then we have a pyramid shape for stability. Materials are going to be brick because it's substantial. And then this last one here is a rooftop garden for sustainability, and even support beams to help keep that house up, and then a chimney escape hatch. Okay, so if we take this same concept back to the Please Place the Beats that some of us were working on, some of the examples we saw in here, of course, the bear was being not very helpful, and so maybe he needs to start working in the garden and clean that up. Maybe he needs to plant some new flowers. Maybe they need a new hive or something like that. Some other examples I've seen students come up with was even coming up with a day shift and a night shift is actually one of the examples they did. A 3rd grader came up with that, and I was like, oh, what a great way for them. I'm surprised they came up with it. They must have a friend or a parent that is working that kind of schedule, but all sorts of solutions here. And again, you can really pick any side and apply that. But the idea of being able to engage them more in the literature and creating a more hands-on experience that you can then bring back to the book. And now they want to know, did my solution, I wonder if that's the one that they chose, that our character chose, to fix that problem in the rest of the story. And so they're kind of tuned in a little more to see how that is carried out. Some things that you want to consider when you're doing this is that you need to prepare students for the task. So it's not just telling them, hey, this is what we're doing, telling them their constraints or the materials and things like that. But you also need to prepare them for the fact that we do have a limited amount of time with this. And so it could be 1 hour, it could be, 3 class periods, whatever it happens to be. I promise you there will be students that are not finished and that are wanting to continue because they are iterating. And that's fantastic. But again, limited time. So that might be something like, hey, for now, this is where we're at and this is great. let them maybe do it in some sort of, bonus time before or after class, something like that, if they want to continue building on that. Because we definitely want to encourage them to keep up with it, and because they're engaging with the content. But of course, there's only so much time in class. We do also have to worry about managing materials, not just how much they use, but also how you're going to keep everything together. Because with this, you can do some low-tech options and high-tech options that we'll talk about in a second, but you do have to be aware of how you're going to keep all that organized and together, because it can very quickly become a hot mess. And then you've got, the people who clean your classrooms very upset about the mess that's in there. And so one of the classroom management pieces of that could be assigning, helpers or whatever to help organize everything again, and then have everybody help clean up the mess afterward. But with this, this can be as simple or as complicated as you want to make it. Low-tech options could be drawing. It could be just using recyclables or craft supplies, something very simple like paper, tape, pom-poms, popsicle sticks, things like that. We also have some pretty cool high-tech options, one of them being that shared PowerPoint deck that we just looked at earlier. Also, the auto draw feature that I mentioned. 3D printing using our Robo, for example, is a great way to do it, because if you've got the time to devote to it, it can be really fun to get them to actually be able to design their prototypes and print them and be able to test them out. Coding is another way. And then, of course, Makey, if you're not familiar, is also a little bit of coding, but they can actually create working prototypes. Some resources I want to bring to your attention here are going to be things like novel engineering. This is actually novelengineering.org. It's a whole organization focused on this. There's courses you can go through. Lots of great ways to bring STEM and that engineering design process into your literacy environments. Storyline Online is the website that we use for the Read Aloud, and there's tons of content on there. All sorts of famous artists, athletes, authors will go and do read alouds as part of that. You may have recognized Rashida from The Office, which is where I remember her from. The third one here is a YouTube read aloud playlist. So somebody's gone in and curated a playlist that has all sorts of read alouds, because, of course, media specialists and medis and things like that will often post that kind of content online. A link to AutoDraw if you want to check out that platform and kind of how the drawing tool works on there. Because, again, I'm not the best artist, especially when I'm using a trackpad on my laptop. So that's another helpful tool. MimioStem, of course, you are probably very familiar with that. And then the last piece here is going to be the MimioStem Roundtable series. I actually led this Roundtable series as part of our roundtables last year. We had a whole series focused on MakerEd, STEM, 3D printing, all sorts of things, starting a makerspace. So if you're anywhere in that realm and want to check it out, we had people just like you on there to talk about their experiences, and there's some really cool things that they did, including some really great strategies for starting a makerspace, and just kind of how to do it. It could be very simple. It could also be very, very technical, but it doesn't have to be. And they've got some great tips for getting started on that. I know we're about to get shut down. Does anybody have any questions? Oops.
That's what you get for being so good at your job. You give them so many resources. They're like, I don't know if I have questions. I have so many answers.
So I'll tell you what, in your follow-up email that you get from our STEM team, we'll make sure you get the slide deck with all those links included. But feel free to reach out to me, Karleen.Vaughn@boxsite.com. Thanks, everyone.
Great job, Karleen. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
And welcome back, everybody. As always, if you want to, in the chat, we'd love to hear your takeaways, what stood out to you, what's exciting, what was an aha moment. And from our last two presenters on drones and literacy, Both amazing sessions. I also put on here for anybody that wants to sign up for an extended My STEM Kids trial. I know it was mentioned a lot in Meredith's session. So if that is something you are interested in, definitely go to mystemkids.com and you can use the code ReadySetStem2023 for 3 months and 3 unlocks. All right. We got some great resources shared in Karleen's session. Allison saying, loving the literacy is STEAM, seeing the engineering 3 Little Pigs lesson, but the addition of financial literacy. Fabulous, fabulous. Awesome. Thank you so much. And then for those that have been posting, again, I'm trying to get everybody's posts here. So we've been getting a lot of posts on social media. Don't forget on Instagram and X and Twitter using Ready, Set, MimioStem and tagging us to enter into you can be one of 3 winners or you may be the grand prize winner. So thank you everybody for posting, sharing, and sharing your excitement and your enthusiasm from these wonderful sessions.